Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today we're going to look at the valve adjustment on our 2007 Honda Goldwing. Now it's really not that tough to do, but it can be a little bit tricky if we see that it's out of adjustment because we will have to pull those camshafts. But don't be afraid, I'm going to be with you every step of the way. So if you're ready, I'll open up my toolbox and we'll dive into this project. So let's go. Tell you what, we're going to start. Tell you, don't jump off on me now. Tell you what, we're going to start off on the left bank because it's a little bit easier to get to that tensioner on the side. All right, let's go ahead and get that inspection cover off. It's right up in here. And what we're going to be looking for is there's going to be 3 different marks, and each one of those marks are 120 degrees away from the other. And when we pull off the cover, we'll be able to look at the top of the cams, and we're going to bring them around to where they're sitting straight up, and that mark right there, the closest one to it, will bring it at top dead center for that particular cylinder. So let's go ahead and get these covers off, and then we'll bring it around where we can take that first measurement. All right, halfway there. We're going to lose a little bit of oil here, especially depending on how long ago you shut off the engine. But for me, it's been a couple of days. I'm still feeling good. So I think we can reuse that outer gasket. Okay guys, if you're going through this procedure and everything's checking out, then great. You can just button it back up and head on down the road. But I'm going to approach this one as if it is out of spec, and I will go through the procedure to go ahead and swap out a shim should it be out of whack. So I'm going to more or less pretend that, okay, one of my valves was too tight, and then I'm going to show you how to select the correct shim size and get it back in there. So to do that, we're going to need to go ahead and remove that lower fairing. So let me get it out of the way and we'll continue. I might get around there. And out you come. There we go. That opens up everything. All right, guys, we're getting ready to measure the valve clearance. And I know in the manual, it tells you to relieve the tension on the tensioner on the cam chain, because evidently that'll skew the measurements. I'm not real sold on that completely. I mean, just how accurate is your feeler gauges to be able to detect a little bit of deflection caused by the chain tensioner. We'll go ahead and do our measurements now with the chain tensioner in, go back, do it again with the chain tensioner removed, and see where we end up as far as being able to measure the difference in between those two. Now your chain tensioner is pretty easy to access over on the left side of the machine. It's right here. But on the right side of the machine, it is on the opposite side, of course, but it's on the top of the cylinder head. And it is extremely difficult to get to, especially with a unit with ABS, which this one has. So let's bring the engine around till we get our lobes facing up on cylinder, I believe it's number 2. Take our measurements, then we'll go to 4 and then down to 6. Let's see if we can see our line. And you can see our line right there. So we were on it. Now what we're looking for on the exhaust is 0.22 millimeters plus or minus 0.03. And for the intake, we're looking at 0.15 plus or minus 0.03. So let's see what we've got for the exhaust side first. Looking for 0.22, let's pop in 0.203, see where we are. And that goes in pretty easy. Let's see if 229 will go. I'm betting not. No. So we're going to go with 0.203. Now our intake, we're looking for 0.15. So let's go to 152 and see what we get. It would probably go, but that's pretty tight. It's got a fair amount of grab on it. Let's drop down one, 0.127. Oh yeah, straight in. So now let's bring it another 120 degrees and get to cylinder number 4. Now what I'm looking at is, to get an idea, is that exhaust cam load that's coming up. It's getting to about right here, and that's where I'm looking at for each cylinder, just to know I'm getting close to where that top dead center mark's going to be up front. So exhaust, let's go back to 0.229, see if that goes in. If not, then we'll drop it down one. Nope, that one sticks, but I can tell you that 203 is going to go in there. Yep. All right, let's go back to 152, little tight, 127, good to go. Rotate it a little bit more, we'll look at number 6. Exhaust 0.229, sticks a little bit, 203, go ahead and tell you, she's going to go in. Yep. Now, our intake, 152, nope, 127, yes. Really consistent on these. So we've got an even measurement all the way across the board. And what we're going to do next is take this special tool, wind it into the tensioner, release tension, and then go back and measure it again. Now, you really can't see what I'm doing in there with this tool. So what I did is I ordered another chain tensioner, and so I can show you out on the table how this little tool works. When they ship out a new chain tensioner, it has a holder at the top of it where there's a bolt and a washer that covers up the space, and it keeps it retracted into the tensioner itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that little shipping tool, let it extend out, and then wind it back in. All right, see, we're out. And the real trick with this one, once it extends out, you can't push it back. It has to be wound back into position. So let's pop in the tool, start turning it in. All right. Then let the tool go down into a couple of different indentions at the top, and it holds the tensioner back in its recoil position. Now, that can be done on this side fairly easy, but on the other side, that is a different story because it is tucked way up in there. The tool that you have to use is this. You have to wiggle this up on top of it with this wound around, remove this extension arm, and then pull this string, which turns the tensioner. Now, who in the world came up with this? Because especially on an ABS unit, you can hardly get this up in there. I'm sorry, but I have the highest respect for Honda, but this is the biggest Rube Goldberg thing I've ever seen. So you can see why I'm just going to show you how to do it on this side and not on the right side of the engine. So let's go back, release the tensioner, take those measurements again, and see where we end up. A little bit of oil's going to dribble out, but don't let it alarm you. Now, let's get our tool in there. Trick is not to push it in too far and catch the edges. All right, now we're all the way at the end. Push it in and up. All right, guys, we've got the tension taken off. I can actually move the chain with my finger. Now let's go ahead and just jump back to number 6 and see if those measurements have changed any. So we were at 127 on the intake side. Of course, still goes in there. Let's see if by some chance 152 goes in. No. All right, on the exhaust, we were at 0.203. Let's see if 0.229 will go. just barely, and I mean just barely. So did it increase the clearance a tick? Yeah, it did, but not by much. All right, let's carefully bring it around because we don't want it to jump time. Back to number 2 and see where they ended up. Exhaust, 203, yep, 0.229, just barely. So it is measuring a little bit different. I'll give them that. But it seems like it's just on the exhaust side. Let's go back to our intake where we measured 127 before. I would expect it's going to pop right in there. Yep. Let's see if we can go one larger at 152. Yes. All right, let's go ahead and hit number 4. All right, let's go for our exhaust. We pretty much can guess where this is going. 0.203, not going to be a problem. Question is 0.229 going to go as well? I don't know on this one. Oh, yep, just barely. Now, back to our intake. We know 127 is going to go loose. And 152, see if she goes. It's a little tight, but yes. So it followed suit all the way across. So we actually thought these were a little tight, but guess what? They were actually dead on once you remove that tension on that chain. So what do we really learn from this? If you're just doing your initial testing to see whether or not you need to go the full distance and adjust the valves, I think you can leave the tensioner in to where you're going to get a ballpark. Now it's going to be a little on the tight side until you remove that tension. Now the real trick is if you go in and measure and it's obvious that the shims need to be adjusted, well then you have no choice but to remove tension because we have to remove the camshafts. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that on this side, replace the shim even though we don't need to, and then put it back together. But that's going to be really tricky on the other side. So let's go ahead and let me show you how to remove the actual cam cap, if you will, that's holding it in place. Get to those buckets and I'll show you what the shims look like, how to adjust them if you need to, and then put it back together. So let's bring cylinder number 2 around to top dead center. Then we can loosen up our cam cap bolts and get to those lifters. I was doing it clockwise earlier, but that was with the tensioner in. So this is with it out. Now we can remove our camshaft holder bolts, and we want to do these in a kind of a crisscross pattern as it releases tension. Only one we're going to have tension on, I believe, is cylinder number 4. So we just want to release it evenly as to not bind anything. Let's give it a little bit of persuasion. Now we can go ahead and bring her out. Now I do want to take note as to what tooth you were on that chain. So let's clean that up a little bit and mark it. Make it easier to find our way back on there. All right, now to get to these elusive shims, we'll just look at the exhaust for number 2. I'm just grabbing it with a magnet. There she is. Now sometimes it will stay on top of the valve. Other times it stays with the bucket right in here. And yours will probably be different, but she had a 205 up front. All right guys, now granted, this particular machine, I didn't have to adjust any shims. But what about that equation I told you about? What if it was out of spec? So we're we're going to say that the intake on number 2 measured out at 0.102 millimeters, which is a little too tight. So what do you need to do about that? Well, if you remember correctly, that particular shim was a 205 or a 2.05. So using the equation A equals B minus C plus D, you plug in B as 102 because that was what we measured. What are we after? Well, we want it to be 0.15. So you do what you measured minus 0.15. Now you'll notice that yields a negative number, but you add that to, or subtract that from, actually 2.05. So what do you end up with? You need a shim thickness of 200. So that's what we would have put in that particular location had we had that measurement of 1.02. Now all you're really doing here, guys, is just taking your valve clearance difference, whether that's needs to be a net plus or a net minus, and then just adding back in whichever shim's actually still in the machine. That's going to tell you what shim needs to go new into the machine. So let's say you've gone through and you've adjusted all of your shims, and now you just need to put it back together. And that's what we're going to do. So we take our shim, go ahead and put it on the top of your valve. Get your bucket back in. And I do recommend that you keep the buckets lined up where they came out. So make sure they go back to their home, because that's where they've been for a lot of miles. They're happy there, so leave them there. Now the fun part, getting our camshaft snuck back in there and then set to the right tooth. Now remember, we did mark our chain and our sprocket, so hopefully it's a little bit easier to get it back in the mark. But once we've done that, then we'll of course verify it with the timing marks on the front of the cam gear itself. Once we get the cam holder back in place, then we'll check our marks. But I can go ahead and tell you that those marks are even, and those marks that we made with the permanent marker are correct as well. So let's get our holder. See if we can get her back in place. The real trick is here, make sure you don't bind up anything as we're pushing it back down, as you are going against the springs on cylinder number 2. Let's see if we can start bringing those in to get it to seat in. As you're doing that, just make sure you walk back in and it's not binding anywhere. Looks like she's seated back in. All right, they're all bottomed out. Let's get them torqued down to 12 Newton meters or 9 foot-pounds. And you do have a certain order, but the good part is it's printed right on the casing. But it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, at this point, rotate the engine over a couple of times. Go back and repeat your valve measurement clearance again, just to make sure that you ended up where you needed to be. Now at that point, we can go in and remove our special tool, which is going to put tension back on the chain. You can feel it. Yep. Now we get in our cover bolt along with that washer, and this has 9 foot-pounds or 12 Newton meters on it as well. And next we want to go in here, clean this old sealant off, and then reseal this area. Now if your gasket is looking a little rough, now would be the time you need to go ahead and replace it. But mine still feels good. Let's just get this cleaned up, get that old sealant out of there, put a new bead down. Now I'm using 3-bond, but you can use Honda Bond. Basically this gray semi-permanent sealant. And you're only wanting to head around this half moon, especially where that just about that 90-degree area is, just right in here. And just needs to be a light coat. Don't need to fill the engine with it. Make sure we're good to go here. All right, and in you go. I would suggest getting all of these started, but don't tighten them down just yet. We'll bottom these out, then get them torqued. Not a lot of torque here, just 10 Newton meters. Get our spark plug wires in place. All right, then our lower cover. And we'll go ahead and put that same 10 Newton meters on these as well. All right, guys, that's pretty much going to wrap this up. All I need to do now is just reinstall that lower fairing, and then I'm good to go. Well, listen, that's pretty much the procedure. And just hopefully you don't have an ABS bike like this one, where you potentially have to fight all of that plumbing on the other side. Well, listen, if you need these tools or parts or anything else for your machine, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. You have any questions or comments about this video, leave them in the section below and I'll do my best to answer them. And hey, if you like what you see, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button along with that notification bell. That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. We just want to say thank you for shopping here with us at Partzilla, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.